Hi, I'm Gene with KT Industries. Let's take a look at our Gold Select line of welding equipment, the MP140. This welder can do it all. It features the ability to do all four of the welding processes: stick welding, TIG welding, and both processes of MIG, both gas and flux core. So let's take a look at this product today. Once you have the MP140 out of the box, let's first of all take a look at the components that we would look at. We have the user's manual for use for proper safety operation and instructions. And today we'd like to look at the stick procedure. So the first thing we would look at is we have our electrode holder. That would be plugged into the positive lead here. You just have to give it the proper rotation, a little twist to secure it into place. And then we would take our ground clamp. Our ground clamp will go into the negative lead, just a little rotation, and then turn to tighten. Make sure your ground clamp is securely fastened. And then we would come into the back is where our power source is. So we would turn the power source on, and the controls in the front, a couple other things you would have to indicate. We would like to make sure that this toggle switch is into the stick welding position. And then for your amperage settings, you have your adjustments for your voltage that you can use right here. So the stick welding procedure is pretty straightforward. You should be ready to weld. Let's take a look at the procedure of welding. We're going to begin with the stick process. And the first thing I'd like to point out is in your manual, if you're unfamiliar with the welder, it has the control dials and the proper settings for the welder. As I mentioned, we are going to use the stick process to begin with. First thing we would like to do here is make sure we have our ground clamp properly secured. That fits into the negative lead of the welder. Gives a little twist and tighten. Then we would select our electrode holder. Plug that securely into the positive lead of the welder. At that point, we should make sure we have all our proper safety equipment. We're using some welding gloves today, safety goggles, and an auto-dimming helmet. Now that we're approximately here, ready to weld, the power source is in the back. So you simply turn your power on. And then if you would look in the front, make sure we have the proper indicators in the proper location for stick welding. And you make sure you put your toggle switch on to stick. And we have our amperage adjustment for the heat for our particular process on the left dial. Once you have those selections made, you are ready to begin welding. Let's see how the stick welding procedure works with the MP140. Cover. The MP140 stick welding process. We are ready to hook up the flux core portion. So we have the user's manual for instructions and operation. Then we would take a look and we have our torch handle. Really doesn't matter which order we put these in, but we'll take this torch handle, plugs into this component of the welder. Then it has the wire control feed that snaps with a little quick coupler here. Then the wire feed lead plugs into the negative lead. And then we look at the ground clamp, and this is a little unusual, but it goes into the positive lead. There, once we have that all hooked up, we're getting close to operation. The power source is in the back of the welder, so you put that in the on position. And then a couple other things, if you are using the MIG welder or the stick welder, we want to make sure we have it set to MIG, and then we want to have the operation to set with your proper amperage control as well. Once you have all of those controls in the right position, you're ready to go. We have demonstrated the arc welding. Now let's take a look at the MIG welding with flux core, which is gasless. Also refer to your owner's manual for the instructions and the proper gauges on the front. Make sure you select the proper procedure. In this case, we're using the MIG welding. We have shown in the unpacking of the box, but make sure your ground clamp is securely secured to your ground source that you're welding on. And make sure and by the way, that ground clamp goes into the positive lead, which is a little bit unique. And your MIG torch handle plugs into the negative. Once you have those things all ready to go, make sure you have all the proper safety equipment. Today we're featuring safety glasses, a auto dimmer helmet, and some appropriate welding gloves. Once you have that, you go to the back of your machine and turn on the power source, and then come back to the front of your machine and make sure you're set to MIG, and your first knob here controls your wire speed, and your middle controls your voltage for the heat to the appropriate size of metal. Once you have all your settings at the indicating position that you like, you're ready to weld. Let's try the MIG portion of the MP140. Cover. The MP140 MIG welding process. At this point, we'd like to look at the gas welding portion of MIG welding. So let's look at what's all in the box. Here we have the adapter plug so that it will fit into your 110 power source. We have some extra contact tibs and components. We have the regulator. The regulator is to regulate your gas flow depending on the source that you're using. The regulator hooks into the included gas line. After it goes into your regulator, the gas line into the welder goes into the back. It's an easily hook up. I'd recommend you use some Teflon tape for that. And then as you begin to install your other components, we would take the torch handle, and that comes into the top or the bottom left of your welder right here, plugs in. And then we need to make sure that we also hook up this wire controller. That just is a little quick coupler, just clips right into place. And then we need to make sure that we hook up the wire lead cable. That goes into the positive lead, and then our ground clamp plugs into the negative lead. Once you have all of those components put together, you are close to ready. Your gas source is back here, and you want to hit your power button. And when you come up to the front, you have a few additional controls. You want to make sure that you are in the toggle position for MIG welding, and then you want to make sure that you have your controls for how much amperage you need for the particular thickness of metal that you're using. Once you have all those things set, you're ready to begin welding. Another feature we'd like to show you on the MP140 is the 2T and the 4T feature up on the top right of the welder. So we just switch it to 4T, and basically that option is an automated feature. The first one is to manually weld. This one you can pull the trigger and it automatically continues to feed without having to depress the trigger. So let's demonstrate this automated feature today.
Once you depress the trigger, let the trigger go, and it automatically welds without having to depress the toggle switch any longer. Then when you're ready to done, hit the trigger again,
and it shuts off. The T4 feature. The MP140 also has some additional features. It has the ability to perform TIG welding, sold separately, and you also have a component spool gun that you can add to the unit as well. All these accessories for your MP140.